Welcome to ePathshala PG courses on computer science. The course is about web technology, and this module will discuss about the topic called JavaScript Objects. The objective of this module is to learn about how to create arrays, functions and objects, and we will also understand and use the built-in objects in JavaScript. We will also get some idea about the JavaScript DOM, which will actually help to understand the next module. So, before we enter into the objects, let us see the three dialog boxes which are supported in JavaScript. So, there is a box called alert box in JavaScript. This is often used if the user want to ensure some information. When the alert box pops up, there would be a OK button, and if you click the OK button, the user will have to user can proceed. So, the use of alert box would be like this. Within the script code, you use a function called alert and give the string you want to display in the alert box. And there is a dialog box called confirm box. This is often used when you want the user to verify or accept something given by the developer. So, when a confirm box pops up, there would be two buttons, one is a OK or cancel, then he has to click either a OK or cancel to proceed. And there is a box called prompt box. This is often used when the user wants to input some value in the web page. So, here when the prompt box pops up, there would be a text box to get the information, enter some value from the user, and it also holds both OK button and cancel button. If the user clicks the OK button, the box returns the input value, or if it cancels, if the user clicks the cancel button, the box returns null. So, these are the different three boxes you can see with working with JavaScript. So, this is script to test the three boxes. So, we have the alert method or function, and this is what the message we want to give it to the user. This is an alert method. So, it pops up like an alert, a dialog box like this. The string what you have given within this method is printed here, and there is a OK button. The user has to click this OK button in order to proceed further. And when you want to make a confirmation of some information with the user, whether he want to accept or cancel that information, then he can make use of a pop box called confirm. And the confirm box, you can see it is having two buttons called OK or cancel. The message what you have given within this function would be displayed. The user can either make a choice of clicking this OK button or the cancel button. And the next control dialog box is a prompt. This prompt is useful to get the user inputs. So, you can see what is your name. So, you are trying to prompt from the user to get a value. Now, the message or the string what you have given within this prompt function would be displayed here, and there would be a text box that would get the value from the user. So, the user can input some value here, and similarly there is another prompt for getting the input from the user. So, these are the three ways you can interact with the user with an alert box or a confirm box or with a prompt box to get the user inputs. And here is an example, a JavaScript, a simple example with what we have learnt earlier. So, now here you can see that it tries to, there are two text boxes. Here you can see there is a text box, and HTML text box is defined, text field is defined here, and it tries to get the input from the user, enter the first name and enter second number. So, this is a form where you have two text field to get the input from the user. And whatever text value you have given in this text form would be taken as strings. So, in order to make, our aim in this program is to compute the addition of these two values entered by the user. The user is entering a first number and the second number. We are prompting, getting from the user to enter the first number and the second number. So, these two numbers would be taken as strings. You have to convert when you use the method called get element by id, which we have earlier learnt. this get element by ID would identify some form element using the ID. So, here you can see that the first text box has got an ID as text1, second text box has got an ID as text2. So, you are trying to retrieve or identify the element using their ID and you want to retrieve the value of it. The value that is retrieved is now an string. You need to make use of a method called parseInt, which is supported in JavaScript to convert the integer value to convert the string to an integer value. So, now you make an addition of these two integers and then you are trying to print it. So, you can see that you are printing the value of both, addition of both x and y. So, here you can see this is the script code you have written and you have made use of a function to make this computation. So, you will now come to know that you can declare functions in JavaScript. So, before we see how to declare functions, let us see about the arrays. Array is one another data type supported in JavaScript. It is an ordered collection of values. Normally you refer it with a single variable name. When you want to declare an array, you make use of the same the variable declaration as var, the keyword with the keyword where, and make use of the new operator, and then there is a predefined object called array to declare an array in JavaScript. So, make use of this predefined object called array and you can specify the size of the array. And now you can also give the values of the array while you create the array. So, either make use of the new operator and enter the values with which the size of the array would be determined. Now, this is an example how you create an array. So, you try to create an array called month. So, this is the name of the array. Use the new operator, the keyword array to declare an array. Now, while you create the array, you want to initialize the array with all these values. So, this is how you can create an array and initialize the value. The syntax is given. Now, to populate the array with values, you can also use the variable and then give the index of the array, the which index you want to access, and you can assign a value to that particular index. Now, coming to functions, how to work with functions. So, we can also define a function in JavaScript using the keyword called the function keyword, and following the keyword function you will use the function name, and the function can take a list of parameters or it can be an empty. Now, whatever block the statements that come after this function keyword would be should be surrounded by curly braces. Now, you can see here how you declare a function. The syntax is given like this. You make use of the keyword called function. If you declare a variable, make use of a keyword called var. Now, you declare a function, you make use of a keyword called function. Give the name of the function as we have seen in other languages, and you can also, the functions can also take parameters. The statements that appears after this function keyword enclosed within this curly braces would now get executed. Now, this is a small example how we declare a function called say hello. The name of the function is say hello and we are trying to display an alert message. So, we are using a dialog box called alert, and then this is the message that would be displayed in the alert box. Now, in order to invoke this function, you will call the function from the body of the HTML document. Only when the function is called, it gets executed. So, here you can say that now you declare a function within the script code. Now, in the body of the function, you have a button design. So, the button name is now called as say hello. The value of the button is what the name of the the message that would be printed on the button. So, here when you click, you use a method called onClick, and when you click, this is predefined method. We will see when we are looking into the JavaScript DOM. So, this one single method normally that appears when you do any action or a click action on a button or on any image or on the page. So, when you click this button, now this function would be invoked. So, say hello is a user defined function you have written, and this would be invoked when you click this button. So, this is what you try to make an action, and through that action you are calling the function. So, when you call the function, you try to print the message called the string called hello there. Now this function can also, as I told you, the function can also take parameters. Now this function say hello is defined with two parameters called name and age. The declaration of data type is not essential in JavaScript. So you just give the name of the variable name comma age. Now what happens is the same way you have a button and you make a click. On clicking the button you call the function called say hello. You try to pass the two values to the function as Zara and then 7. Now when this function is called, it tries to print the name of the person and the age is 7 years old. So the output would be printed like this. So you have a button, you click it and this output would be, the function would be invoked and the output would be printed. Now this function can also have return statement, but it is an optional return statement. If you want to return something, you do not want to give a return data type, but you can make use of a return statement to return some value from the function. So this statement should be the last statement, the return statement should be the last statement in a function. So now you have defined a function called concatenate. It takes two strings and then tries to concatenate it, and you are trying to return the value of the concatenate value of the two strings. So this is the function you have defined. Now coming to the second function, the second function would actually retrieve the result that is returned from the first function. So the first function you make a concatenation of two strings. The second function is actually making a call to the first function, retrieves the result and it tries to print the result. So these two functions would be invoked when you make an action on the page, on the web page. So you have a button called call function. When you click on click, it makes a call to the second function. So the second function would be call. This second function is actually making a call to the first function called concatenate. The resultant is returned. We can see we make use of a statement called return statement, and that is the last statement in the function called concatenate. So this function returns a value that gets stored in the variable called result variable, and that would be printed. So you can see that it gets the two strings concatenated and print it as output. So this is how you declare functions. You make a call to the function, you pass parameters and you can return parameters through an functions. Now JavaScript supports an important concept called objects, because JavaScript is an object oriented programming scripting language. It supports the object concepts like encapsulation, aggregation, inheritance and polymorphism. So now as we know encapsulation, it encapsulates both properties and methods within the objects. So we know the basic difference between the function and a method. So what we are seeing now as a function is a standalone unit of statements, whereas a method would be normally attached with an object. So whenever you refer to any of the method that is defined within the object, you have to refer it with the object name, or if it is a static method, you have to call it with the class name, as we have seen like in Java. But in JavaScript, you don't have things like class. Instead, you have objects. You don't have anything like classes. You have objects that are defined, and you can use the predefined objects, or we can define our own objects. So an encapsulation is an important property that is supported in JavaScript. So every object can take properties or methods. So when you want to use the property, we have to use the object name, use the dot operator to access the properties of the object. The name of the property is given here, and you can take the property value. So here you can see that document is a predefined object in JavaScript. So document dot title is another object in JavaScript. So you are trying to invoke the property, not an object, it is a property. So document dot title, which would be stored in a variable string. And object methods, here we have, so far we were seeing about document dot write for displaying or printing any statement on the output that is the web page. So if you want to do it, you use document dot write and give a string within parenthesis. This document is a predefined object, as we have seen. in JavaScript or HTML DOM, you have the document as a predefined object, defined object, whose method, one of the method is a write method, using which you are trying to print a string on the document. So this is how you access the object properties and object methods. Now coming to the user defined objects. User defined objects can be declared in many ways. One such thing is given here. You make use of the keyword where to declare a variable. The same way you can now declare a variable, but this becomes object when it takes multiple values. So normally a variable can take a single value, but here this variable car is going to take multiple values. Now this is now called as a object and not as a variable. So here it takes three properties called type, model and then color. So you put a colon and then give the type. It's actually every property that appears in an object will be a type value pair. So with the type and value you can give the property, mention the properties for the object. And then using the new operator, that's another way you can create an object using the new operator. So you can see here you use the constructor called object. So this is the operator, new is an operator, and this is the object, that is the base class that is created in JavaScript. So all the user defined objects are descendant of this base class object called this object. So now you make use of this constructor that is defined in this object to create any user defined object. Now this is actually you try to create an array, as we have seen in the before slides. We saw that how to create an array. So creating an array is using the key object name called array. Array is a predefined object in JavaScript. So you create a variable called books and then use the array object to create an object. So and the third statement, you can see you create a date object. You use an object called date to create an date object. So you can create any user defined object using the constructor methods of the object, or you can use any of the predefined object like array, date, string, math and so on, what we will be seeing in the forthcoming slides. Now this is a small example to make use of the object constructor. We have the script code and we try to create the object using this object constructor. Now this book becomes an object because you have used a constructor, this book becomes an object. Now in order to assign the properties to the object, you use the name of the object as book. So book dot, this is the property name subject, this would be assigned with a new value like Java, and book dot author is assigned with another string called Herbert shell. So this is how you access the object properties using the name of the object. And now you try to print this document dot write, you are trying to print the book dot subject and the book dot author, you will get this output. And to work with objects, we also need to know that how to define methods for an object. So here you can see that we create an object called my book. So my book is an object which takes two values like Java and then Herbert shell. So this book, for this user defined object called book, which is defined as a function here. You can see here function book, which takes two things like title and author. So we can define constructors using the just like creating a function. So book is a constructor for this book object, and here is where you assign the values for the properties defined for the this my book. So my book is a object that takes the two values and get assigned with title and author. You try to add another property called add price to this book object, and now this is actually you are trying to assign a method. So add price is another function through which you are trying to assign a value to the third property called add price. So this add price is actually a function. Add price is a function that is defined to take an parameter called amount, and this amount is actually assigned to the third property of the book called this dot price. So now this book has got three properties with title, author and then add price. So add price is a function that would be called and through which you assign the third property. And you are trying to print title, author and then price of this book. And then coming to the keyword call with. So, any object that is specified within as an argument to the with, you can see here with this, it is a keyword in JavaScript. So, the object specified as an argument to the function like with becomes the default object. This object becomes a default object for the duration of the block that follows. So, within this you can use the default object. So, the property is used without the object name and the dot operator. So, this object becomes the default object within this block. For those statements you do not want to give the object name. So, the properties and methods for the object used with the keyword with would be used without naming the object. So, this is an example here. You can see here you call with of this. So, function you have defined a function called add price which takes an amount, and you want to work for the default object, use a keyword call, you use the keyword call this keyword, this pointer that would normally refer to the object that is invoking this function call add price. So, now the same example, you had the same example what we have seen in the previous slide. So, this function book takes title and author assigned to the two properties, price is made as 0. This add price is actually assigned with the method. So, the method is defined, the add price method is defined. So, through which you assign the price to this property, and then this with keyword would actually take the default object and then it assigns the value. So, the output of the code would be printed as title, author and the price. And JavaScript also supports the built-in objects like number, Boolean, string, array, date, math and then regular expression. So, coming to the number object, this normally represents the numerical data, either integers or floating point numbers. So, here you can see that how you declare a number object. So, a variable name, directly you can assign a number because number is a primitive type. You also have an equivalent predefined object called number in JavaScript. So, you can use this predefined object to create a number, or you can directly assign a value to a number, integer value to a variable. Supposing if you are using this number object and you are trying to create a number and you are not giving a number an integer to this constructor number constructor, then that would return returns a value like not a number. So, if you are giving a wrong argument, this would automatically returns that it is not a number. So, these are some of the properties that are used with the number object like max value, min value, not a number, negative infinity, positive infinity, prototype and constructor. So, these are some of the properties you can work with the number object, and these are the methods that are supported in the number object. So, if you are providing a number and you want to convert it to an exponential value, make use of the method like 2 exponential. If you want to make it as a fixed number of digits after the decimal point, then you can make use of a method called 2fixed. You can convert a number to string that is supported in the local machine, and you can make it fix the number of digits before the decimal point and after the decimal point. If you use a method called 2precision, you can convert it to string, you can take the value of the number object using the value of method. And similar like number object, there is a support called Boolean object that actually represent two values called true or false. You create a Boolean object using the new operator in this way, and the two properties supported in this Boolean object are constructor and prototype. So, constructor is to call the constructor of the Boolean object, and it returns the source of the object that is created, which can be now you can use it for assigning to another object. And prototype is a property by which you can assign properties or methods to a Boolean object what you are creating it. And you can use the Boolean methods like to source, and then you can convert it to string, you can retrieve the value of the Boolean object using the value of method. And there is support for string object in JavaScript. This is very useful object which we can normally come across in JavaScript. You can create a string directly by assigning a string put within double quotes or single quotes, or you can use a new operator to create a string. The properties supported for the string object are constructor, length, prototype. There are other properties also, some of them have been listed here. And the methods are character at, character code at, concat, index of, and the other methods are given here. We can see an example to see how these methods are going to work. So, now you can see that you have two strings like zebra and then A, B, C, D, F, G. Now, you try to print the character at the 0th position. So, the string object is S, the first object is. So, the object name dot the method name, you try to print the character at the 0th position. And the second statement, you try to get the character code at the 0th position. So, it returns the ASCII code of the character which is in the 0th position. And similarly, you have seen that there is a function called a method, not a function, you call it as a method. So, you had a method like from character code. So, this contains codes, this would be printed because the string has got the character code, and then you can convert a string to lowercase and you can also convert a string to uppercase. So, now you can see that the character at the 0th index, the character code of Z, and then the word contains character codes, what are the character codes, and then you are trying to convert it to lowercase and you are trying to convert a string to uppercase. Coming to the array objects, we have seen that arrays could be created in this way, and we can also simply assign values to an array and create it. So, when you assign directly values, you put it within the square brackets and you can assign the value. You can access the array elements like this. And these are the array properties, and some of the methods have been listed here. So, coming to this example, we can clearly understand that you create an array, you assign values to the array and you create another two arrays like integer 1 and integers 1 and integers 2. And now you want to call a function like output array, and output array of all these arrays. So, we define a function called output array and you put different colors and then you are trying to print this array object. So, you can see here array colors contains these things, array integers 1 contains all these things. You can work with arrays. And you also have an object called date object that would be created with a constructor called date. So, there are various forms of this constructor without any argument, which takes a milliseconds, which takes a string and convert it to a date, and which takes the different things. Anything that is within square bracket is an optional parameters. And most of the date methods would be like get methods and set methods. And coming to the math object, math is not actually, this is one of the predefined object, but it is not a, math is not a constructor. It is a static, the properties and methods defined for this math is a static one. You do not want to create it, you just call it with math dot the function, any of the property that is defined for the math object. So, math dot sin of, this is sine function. So, you call the properties without creating the object of this math, and this is an example code where you have used a function method called max, a maximum of the two values. So, you directly without an object, you directly use the object name math dot any of the methods or properties defined for the math object, and this is the result of it. So, this module we have looked into the starting with the JavaScript dialog boxes, the 3 dialog boxes like alert, prompt and then confirm, and we have also explained about the support for arrays and functions in JavaScript, and we have explored about the predefined objects, many predefined objects like number, date, string, Boolean, and so on, and we have also seen about how to create the user defined objects and work with the with to work with the default objects, and thank you.